Welcome back. Today we're doing lesson 7. We are reviewing 1 and 2-step equations and finding their solutions. Bear with us on this. Sometimes we need to go back and review something you might think is very easy. One, just to refresh our memory, but also so you can see how everything fits together. So when we solve for a variable is just a number. We don't know what it is. It's like unwrapping a present. We have to do the opposite. So opposite, you can also think as inverse. Remember, we have to move one thing to the other side of the brick wall, which is our equation. So because we are operating on what's a really tiny screen, I just zoomed in. Hopefully you can still see and hear everything. So here's our equal sign. It's like a brick wall. So what we want to do is solve for the letter M. That means we had to move everything else to the other side of the equal sign. So I'm going to take this plus 12 right here and do the opposite. I'm going to subtract it. What happens is that just blows that thing away. It gets rid of it. Whatever you do on one side of the equal sign, you have to do on the other. Since I minus 12 on one side, I have to minus 12 on the other side. So now I'm going to bring everything down. So I'll bring that M down here. And then I'm going to subtract 10 minus 12, and I get negative 2. This is our solution right here. But you'll find this year, just finding the answer isn't enough. In this year, we have to find out why, or what does that look like? So, and again, we're not going to do this all year, but this is just starting and looking at what we've got. So I am going to graph this on a number line. We don't usually graph the solution to an equation on a number line because it's just 1 point, but for today, we're gonna. Here's our 0, so this is 1 and this is 2, and then working backwards, I have that. So our solution, M equals negative 2, is right there. That's what the solution to an equation looks like. Now, we have spots here to check. It's really important that you check your work, even though I know it's a pain in the neck. There's going to be times when I skip the checks in like 2 minutes, but it's important you understand what to do. So we have our equation, m plus 12 equals 10. So we're going to take our solution, negative 2, and substitute it in for our variable, plus 12. Now, you can evaluate this by hand. You can use the tricks that we've used in class. I'm going to evaluate by hand. Negative 2 plus 12 is 10. And both sides of our equation match, so it's true. That means it works. To save time on the video, I'm going to go through how to solve the equations. I'm going to pause the video while I do the number line and the check, just so this thing doesn't take a half an hour for you to watch. Moving on to number 2, we're going to solve our equation right here. That's a weird G. We're solving for G. Here's our equal to. We're not going to add 2 to both sides because then there'd be nothing left over here. So what I'm going to do to get G by itself is add 9. You do the opposite. Whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other. So now we're going to start a new section. Combine everything that you can. Negative 2 plus 9 is 7. Bring down your equals. Bring down your G. And then negative 9 plus 9 cancels out. So that's our answer. So then what I did here is I graphed my solution on a number line and I checked my work. I substituted 7 in for G, and then I figured out if my equation was true or false, and it was true. Okay, negative 7y equals negative 91. Remember, if you have a letter and a number next to each other, it means you're multiplying. So the opposite of multiply is divide. You can show divide like this, but I show it like a fraction. So I'm not going to add 7 because adding is not the opposite of multiply. I'm going to divide by -7. So whatever we do on one side, we do on the other. So that cancels out, and I end up with y equals a positive 13. When you're doing a number line that doesn't start at 0, just make sure the 13 is somewhere on your number line. I usually make 5 little marks, and so 13, it can be anywhere on your number line. It doesn't have to be in the middle. And I'm going to put a circle at 13. And now I'm going to check my work. So plug 13 in for y. -7 times 13 is in fact -91. So for now, I'm going to skip the rest of the number lines and checks just for this video. I do have it on my answers, but I know most of you don't want to watch algebra videos all night long. So problem number 4, it's a fraction. You would say this fraction a over 9 or a divided by 9. So the opposite of divide is multiply. So we're going to multiply by 9 on this side, multiply by 9 on this side. That goes away. -4 times 9 is -36. So now we're going to move down to where there's a fraction. Let's see if I can move my mouse. Clear all the mess out. Okay. So if we have a fraction in front of the letter, like for question number 5, it's 2/3 x right here. There's 2 different ways you can do this. I'm going to show you the first way, and then I'll go back and do the same problem and show you the other one. So again, this is 2/3 times x equals 10. You can divide both sides by 2/3 because the opposite of multiply is divide. That goes away. And then in your calculator, you would do 10 divided by alpha x 2/3. And you would get 15. What we're going to write over here, if you have a fraction in front of a letter, what you do is multiply by the reciprocal. Reciprocal means you flip the fraction. That is in essence the same thing as dividing. Sometimes it just looks a little neater to do. It works though. Doesn't matter. Remember, you can divide by 2/3 on both sides, or you can multiply by the reciprocal. So instead of 2/3, it's 3/2. What happens is those cancel out, and 10 times 3/2 is 15. Try the next few. I'm going to pause the video and then I'll show you my answers. So that's what we've got. And as always, if you guys have questions, ask us either in class or stay after school for extra help. Remember, we're there almost every day of the week. So now we're going to move on to the next page. For this section, we're doing a 2-step equation. That means you have 2 different types of arithmetic. One is adding or subtracting, and then the other is multiply or divide. So what we have to do, it's basically PEMDAS backwards. Since it's backwards, we're going to do add or subtract first, and then multiply or divide next. So I'm just going to write here plus or minus, and I'm going to do a no and use the x for multiply and divide. So remember, we're doing plus or minus first. Here's our equal sign. So it's 6 times x plus 8 equals 50. I'm going to subtract 8 on both sides. And now bring down everything that I've got left over. So I have a 6 times x, and 15 minus 8 is 42. So to get x by itself, 6 times x, the opposite is divide. The 6's cancel out. So x equals 42 divided by 6 is 7. And that's our answer. For number 10, we're going to do the same thing. 2 times n minus 5 equals 11. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Bring down what we've got. 2 times n equals 11 plus 5 is 16. We did our add and subtract step. Now we're doing multiply and divide. 2 times n, the opposite is divide. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. N equals 16. Now, there's a lot of problems here, but each one is a little bit different. So that's why we're going to go through each one. Here's our equal to. We want to get k by itself, so I'm going to subtract 9. 13 minus 9 is 4. And then I'm going to bring down negative 4 times k. So a lot of people want to add to get rid of that negative 4, but really we're dividing. Negative 4 times k, so the opposite is divide. So those cancel. K's on the right-hand side of the equals, that's okay. 4 divided by negative 4 is negative 1. For number 12, the minus sign is with that 3. So it's really a positive 7. So it's 7 minus 3 times y equals 34. So to move the 7, we subtract it. And now we're going to bring down this minus 3y or negative 3y. Remember, it's the same thing. 34 minus 7 is 27. To get y by itself, divide, because it's negative 3 times y. So divide both sides by negative 3. So y equals negative 9. Now we are going to combine this with some fraction work. So for question 13, we have x divided by 2 minus 7 equals 9. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides, right? Get rid of the plus or minus signs first. X divided by 2 equals 16. So this is a fraction. But remember, fractions just mean divide. When the x is part of the fraction, to do the opposite, you multiply. So x equals 32. Now, I'm going to take a second and rewrite this just because I want you to be able to see the difference or see actually the similarities. So x over 2 equals 16. I can write x over 2 a different way. I need my eraser. So what I can do is this is actually 1/2 x. So just like we did before, we multiply by 2. If you multiply by the reciprocal here, it's 2 over 1. So those cancel. And you still end up with the same thing. You still end up with 32. So when we multiply by 2, it is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. Just food for thought. Okay, number 14. We're going to subtract 8 because it's c divided by negative 5 plus 8 minus 8 on both sides. 11 minus 8 is 3 equals c divided by negative 5. So to get the c by itself, we are now going to multiply by negative 5. Whatever you do on one side, you got to do on the other. Those cancel. Bring your C down. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Okay, last ones. Minus 22 on both sides. Get rid of that plus sign. So we bring down our 3/5 x. 22's cancel. Bring down your equal sign. 28 minus 22 is 6. To get the x by itself. Now the 3/5 is timesing the x. Okay, the x isn't part of the fraction, so this is where we multiply by the reciprocal. Multiply by 5/3, multiply by 5/3. Remember, you can also divide by 3/5. That cancels. 6 times 5/3 is 10. This last one is 15 equals 9 minus 1/2 x. This minus goes with the 1/2. Our 9 is actually a positive, so I'm going to subtract it on both sides. So 15 minus 9 is 6 equals negative 1/2 times x. So to get the x by itself, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, so negative 2/1. And then on this side, I'm going to be a little fancy. Instead of writing negative 2/1, I'm just going to write negative 2. It's the same thing. So those fractions cancel. Negative 2 times 6 is negative 12 equals x. I'm going to stop this video, and the next one is going to have some trickier problems on it.